Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. Was about children and COVID-19. Part of the herd immunity theory is that you can keep schools open and keep life as normal because the children aren't susceptible to it because they don't get sick. Well, two studies, one from China coming out of when the outbreak hit Wuhan, found that the kids, the children, right, 17 and under, were only 1/3 as susceptible to the virus, but they have a contact rate in school 3 times higher than an adult. So if you think about what passes a contagion, it's not just how susceptible you are, but how many points of contact you have within which to receive that contagion. And so it kind of washes out. Children may be less susceptible on average, but when they're in school, they have a much higher contact rate, which makes sense. If you've ever seen kids in school, they're not easy to keep distance. A German study took a little bit different. They looked at actual children who tested positive for COVID and went back and studied their viral loads and whether they were symptomatic. And what they found is that a lot of the children were asymptomatic, much like we know that the younger you get, the less chances you are of symptoms. Doesn't mean you're free of consequences, but the rates go down. But the children who were asymptomatic had the same high or higher viral loads as adult. And the viral load is the ability of the virus to infect someone. The higher your viral load, the more likely you are to infect someone else. So even though children were asymptomatic, they found that just like other asymptomatic carriers, they're able to spread it. So this concept that we can expose children and be okay sort of misses the point that those children then go home, they deal with other children, and those children go home, and teachers and staff and all of these points of contact and interaction. They estimate that closing schools takes about 0.3 of a point off of the R-0 factor. On the R-0 factor, an R1 means for every 1 person infected, 1 more person will be infected. I think COVID's around 2 point something or 3 R factor, and it changes over time. But this is, if you have 1-to-1, it means the virus is still going to continue growing. This 0.3 matters because a lot of places in the US, they're estimating the R factor right now is 0.8. So it's actually declining. The virus is not able to, for every person infected, they're only infecting 0.8 of another person, so it's going to decline. If you open the school and add this 0.3 back onto 0.8, you're now over 1 again. Or another way to think of it is the growth of the virus is 30 to 40% more when schools are open. Now, these studies, with all studies with coronavirus, you have to be careful. They were smaller studies. There is one that is starting now. It's called the HERO study, and it's going to look at 6,000 children across 2,000 families on a longitudinal study over time, and that will give us really good information. It won't be done, obviously, until much later. There is a new wrinkle now into the theory of how protected children are from consequences. This is the hospitalization rate for 2 child age demographics, 0 to 4 years old and 5 to 17 years old. You can see it's rising. It's not that it's 0. There is an impact. It may be less than the flu, but it's not consequence-free. Again, these provisional data charts, they're subject to revision by the CDC. They'll be revised over 8 weeks, but the revisions tend to be upwards. The Kawasaki syndrome, it's a rare syndrome. It's been associated with previous coronavirus strains, and it's untreated. It can lead to really bad heart conditions like a coronary aneurysm. It's very rare in the US. What's happening now isn't Kawasaki. It's Kawasaki-like. It's much more like an inflammatory or blood-related condition than the traditional COVID, which is being described as a respiratory condition. So they're saying to keep an eye out for children, rashness to redness of the eyes, blood circulation problems. It seems to be affecting everything from infants to teenagers. Again, we only have a few dozen cases here in the UK and in the US, so this isn't like it's widespread, but we haven't started looking for it until just the last 2 weeks. So there may be much more of these cases that were being classified as someone else that are some sort of relation to how the coronavirus is affecting younger adults. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.